The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "Stop judging, that you may not be judged. For as you judge, so will you be judged. And the measure with which you measure will be measured out to you. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me remove that splinter from your eye,' while the wooden beam is in your eye? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam from your eye first, then you will see clearly to remove the splinter from your brother's eye." The Gospel of the Lord. I'm always struck how the saints look at their own lives with such imperfection. You know, we hold them up in such high regard of living such a holy and charitable life. But when they look at their own lives and talk about their own lives, it's like all these sins and their weakness and their imperfection. It always strikes me. I don't know. It's their humility, I guess. St. Aloysius is the same way, who we celebrate today. Just reading his little thing in the officer readings this morning. Man, he was just like this meek and lowly guy. From his perspective, maybe he was. But he was a Jesuit, man. These guys are rock solid, in their training. It's just, that strikes me, that dynamic of how they perceive themselves with such kind of humility. And it just speaks to our gospel today. Kind of the line that stands out is, why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own eye? I think those guys have noticed the beam in their own eye, and then they are able to see their brothers with a similar charity or mercy or something. It's an interesting dynamic, but it kind of reminds me of this one old priest that I ran with. He used to say, if you're a hammer, you're going to always look for a nail. So like if you walk around with this beam in your eye, you're always going to be looking for somebody that, to take it out on, in a sense. So often I think when we kind of perceive something in someone else that bothers us, it's pretty much reflecting on something we got going on, right? So pay attention to it. I find myself needing to do that. Like, okay, yeah, this thing's rubbing me wrong. This person's rubbing me wrong. And then eventually I'm like, all right, old son, like, what's that saying about you? What do you need to step up or remove or do something with? So be attentive to that stuff. I think that's kind of where our Lord's getting at. What is it in my life that needs to be corrected? And then in doing so and relying on the Lord's mercy, will be less judgmental towards others and more merciful to them, because the Lord has shown mercy upon us. So maybe that's a little key to what they got going on. I don't know. But I think it's definitely something we can learn from, to be less critical and be more humble and ultimately more charitable.